The Spanish Grand Prix of 2025? What a race we witnessed. It was a day that had absolutely everything. We saw sheer brilliance from a young star. We saw a champion under immense pressure. The Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya, a track that tests every aspect of car and driver, delivered a spectacle for the ages. From the very first lap to the checkered flag, the tension was palpable. You could cut it with a knife, as they say. This wasn't just a race. It was a drama played out at over 200 miles per hour, a testament to the fine margins that define Formula One. Oscar Piastri. Remember that name. His performance was nothing short of sensational. He drove with a maturity that belied his years, taking his 5th victory of this incredible season. He handled the pressure cooker environment of leading from the front with remarkable composure. This young Australian is proving to be the real deal, a genuine contender. His win wasn't just about speed, it was about intelligence, precision, and an unwavering focus. McLaren have a gem on their hands, and today he shone brighter than the Spanish sun. His drive was a masterclass in control and pace management. Contrast that with Max Verstappen, a driver we know for his incredible talent and aggressive style, but today that aggression perhaps boiled over into frustration. His race was a roller coaster, full of daring moves, but also marked by controversy. The incident with George Russell in the dying laps was a major talking point. It cost him dearly, not just in terms of race position, dropping him to 10th, but also in penalty points on his license. He's now walking a tightrope, just 1 point away from a race ban. It was a meltdown of sorts under the intense Spanish heat and race pressure. The strategic battle between McLaren and Red Bull was fascinating to watch. It was a high-stakes game of chess, played out on scorching hot asphalt. McLaren opted for a 2-stop strategy, confident in their tyre wear and the pace of their MCL 60. Red Bull, on the other hand, rolled the dice with a more aggressive 3-stop strategy for Verstappen. This divergence in tactics created a captivating ebb and flow throughout the race. Every pit stop, every tyre choice, every radio message was crucial. It highlighted how Formula One is as much a mental game as it is a physical one. A true team sport where strategy can make or break a race. The build-up to the Spanish Grand Prix was thick with anticipation, not just for the on-track action but also due to the off-track chatter. New technical regulations regarding flexible front wings had just come into force. These were changes lobbied for by rivals, notably Red Bull and Ferrari, in an attempt to perhaps peg back the impressive McLaren. It's always the way in Formula One. When a team finds an advantage, others will look to the rulebook to try and level the playing field. The effectiveness of these new regulations was a key point of discussion in the paddock before the lights went out. McLaren, however, seemed unfazed. Their car has been a rocket ship this season, and they arrived in Barcelona with a quiet confidence. The team has done a phenomenal job adapting to the current era of regulations, and the MCL 60 is a testament to their engineering prowess. The talk was whether these new wing interpretations would clip their wings, so to speak. But as the weekend unfolded, it became clear that McLaren's inherent strengths were still very much intact. They had pace, they had a good understanding of the tyres, and they had 2 drivers at the top of their game. Adding to the pre-race tension were the conditions. Barcelona in early June can be punishing. The air temperature was a sizzling 32 degrees Celsius, and the track surface temperature soared to a blistering 51 degrees. These conditions place enormous strain on the cars, the tyres, and of course the drivers. Tyre degradation was always going to be a massive factor, a critical element for the strategists on the pit wall to manage. Keeping the rubber alive for an entire stint would be key to success, demanding smooth inputs from the drivers and clever planning from the engineers. The atmosphere on the grid was electric. Fans packed the grandstands, eager to see their heroes battle it out. There was a sense that this could be a pivotal race in the championship. Piastri was leading, but the pack was chasing hard. Every team and driver knew that points scored here could be vital. The pre-race preparations, the final checks, the nervous energy. It all contributes to the unique spectacle that is a Formula One Grand Prix. The stage was set for a dramatic encounter, and nobody could have predicted just how dramatic it would become. Qualifying on Saturday set the tone for what was to come. It was a session where precision was paramount, and Oscar Piastri delivered it in spades. He secured pole position with a breathtaking lap, a stunning 1 minute 11.546 seconds. That lap was a demonstration of pure driving skill, wringing every last thousandth of a second out of his McLaren. To put that kind of lap together under such intense pressure, knowing that the eyes of the world are upon you, is truly special. It was a statement of intent from the young Australian, laying down the gauntlet to his rivals. His teammate, Lando Norris, made it a McLaren front-row lockout, but he was a couple of tenths adrift. Lando admitted to making a few small errors on his final Q3 lap, which, on a track like Barcelona, can be the difference between pole and second. Nevertheless, a front row for McLaren was a mighty achievement, underlining the strength of their package. It showed that the new front-wing regulations hadn't significantly blunted their competitive edge. They were still the team to beat, at least over a single lap. The papaya cars were looking formidable. Max Verstappen, ever the challenger, qualified a strong third. He was just over 3/10 behind Piastri, a gap that highlighted the tight competition at the front. Interestingly, George Russell in the Mercedes matched Verstappen's lap time exactly. However, because Verstappen set his time earlier in the session, he claimed the third spot on the grid. This tiny detail can sometimes play a crucial role in the run down to the first corner. It showed just how close the margins were between Red Bull and Mercedes in their fight to catch the flying McLarens. The qualifying session was a nail-biter right to the end. The tension built with each passing minute as drivers pushed their cars to the absolute limit. The track was evolving, temperatures were high, and finding that perfect lap was a huge challenge. For Piastri to emerge on top, ahead of such a talented field, spoke volumes about his talent and his mental fortitude. Starting from pole at Barcelona is a significant advantage given the track's layout, and he had put himself in the perfect position for Sunday's race. The stage was perfectly set. When those 5 red lights went out on Sunday afternoon, the roar of the engines was deafening and the anticipation reached fever pitch. Oscar Piastri, from his hard-earned pole position, made a clean getaway. He reacted well, got the power down smoothly, and held his line into the crucial first corner. That's exactly what you need to do when you're leading the pack. No heroics, just solid execution. He controlled the start perfectly, giving himself the best possible chance to dictate the early phase of the race. It was a textbook start from the young leader. However, behind him, the action was frantic. Max Verstappen, starting from third, was a man on a mission. He launched his Red Bull with typical aggression, slicing his way past Lando Norris, who perhaps didn't have the best of starts from P2. Verstappen then challenged George Russell, who had also made a decent getaway from fourth. By the time they reached turn 1, Verstappen had muscled his way into second place. It was a bold, decisive move, characteristic of his attacking style. He wasn't going to let the McLarens have it all their own way. Lando Norris found himself shuffled back, losing out in that initial skirmish. The run down to turn 1 at Barcelona is long, and it always creates opportunities for those brave enough to take them. Verstappen seized his chance, while Norris had to regroup. George Russell also found himself in the thick of it, battling hard to maintain his position. The opening lap of any Grand Prix is a chaotic ballet of speed and precision, and this was no exception. Drivers were jostling for every inch of tarmac, trying to gain an advantage without making a race-ending mistake. Most of the field had opted to start on the soft compound tyres, hoping for maximum grip off the line and in the early stages. The notable exception was Yuki Tsunoda, who had to start his AlphaTauri from the pit lane. A tough beginning to his afternoon. The first few laps saw the order begin to settle, but the intensity remained incredibly high. Piastri led from Verstappen, with Norris trying to recover lost ground. The Spanish Grand Prix was well and truly underway, and already the strategic implications of those early moves were being considered up and down the pit lane. Section 5. The tyre tango strategy unfolds under the Spanish sun. As the race moved beyond the frantic opening laps, the strategic chess game began to unfold in earnest. Tyre degradation, as predicted, was proving to be a significant factor under the punishing Spanish sun. These soft tyres, while offering initial pace, were not destined to last long. Teams had to carefully weigh the benefits of track position against the need to keep their rubber in good condition. It was a delicate balancing act, and the pit walls were alive with calculations and predictions. This phase of the race often sorts the contenders from the pretenders. On lap 13, Lando Norris demonstrated the pace of his McLaren. He closed in on Max Verstappen, who was holding down second place. Utilizing the drag reduction system, or DRS, effectively on the main straight, Norris swept past the Red Bull. It was a clean and decisive overtake, showing that McLaren had the speed to challenge even the mighty Verstappen in a straight fight. This move put McLaren back into a commanding 1-2 position, with Piastri still leading comfortably out front. The papaya cars were working in perfect harmony. Verstappen's response came swiftly. Just one lap later, on lap 14, Red Bull called him into the pits. This early stop revealed their strategic hand. They were committing to a more aggressive 3-stop strategy. By taking on another set of fresh, soft tyres, they were aiming to use superior tyre performance in shorter bursts to try and undercut or pressure the McLarens. McLaren, in contrast, were clearly planning a 2-stop race, aiming for longer stints and fewer pit stops. This divergence in strategy set up a fascinating duel that would play out over the remaining laps. McLaren responded to Verstappen's stop a few laps later. Piastri and Norris made their first pit stops on laps 21 and 22, respectively. They too took on fresh tyres, but their strategy was built around making those tyres last longer. The pit crews performed flawlessly, as is expected at this level. As the first round of stops cycled through, the true picture of the race began to emerge. Piastri retained his lead, but Verstappen, on his aggressive strategy, was never far behind. The tyre tango was in full swing, and every lap was crucial. Section 6, Antonelli's heartbreak, McLaren's gamble, the safety car shuffle. The race settled into a rhythm, but in Formula One, you can never truly relax. Just when it seemed strategies were locked in, fate intervened. On lap 55, with the end of the race tantalizingly close, drama struck. Mercedes rookie Kimi Antonelli, who had been having a solid drive, suffered an engine failure at turn 10. His car ground to a halt in a dangerous position, leaving the race director with no choice but to deploy the safety car. This single event had the potential to turn the entire race on its head, neutralizing leads and forcing quick decisions. The pit lane instantly became a hive of activity. The leading drivers dived in for what would be, for most, an opportunistic cheap pit stop. McLaren, with both cars running at the front, executed a perfect double-stack pit stop. It's a high-pressure maneuver, bringing both cars in nose to tail, but the Woking team handled it with aplomb. Both Piastri and Norris were fitted with soft tyres, the optimal choice for a short sprint to the finish once the race resumed. This was a crucial call, giving their drivers the best possible rubber for the restart. Red Bull faced a different dilemma with Max Verstappen. When he pitted under the safety car, the team informed him that their only available new tyres were the hard compound. His race engineer, Gian Piero Lambiase, confirmed this over the radio. This was a significant disadvantage. The hard tyre takes much longer to get up to temperature, especially after a safety car period. Verstappen would be vulnerable at the restart, surrounded by cars on grippier, soft tyres. It was a tough break for Red Bull, a consequence of their earlier aggressive strategy and tyre usage. The safety car period, while neutralizing Piastri's hard-earned lead, also bunched up the field. It reset the race for a final dash to the flag with just 6 laps remaining once the track went green again. The tension was immense. Piastri had to manage the restart perfectly. Norris had to support his teammate while looking for any opportunity. And Verstappen faced an uphill battle on his less favorable tyres. The stage was set for a thrilling, and as it turned out, controversial conclusion to the Spanish Grand Prix. The unexpected intervention had completely reshaped the closing stages. Section 7. Red mist descends. Verstappen's collision course. The restart, with only a handful of laps remaining, was always going to be chaotic. Max Verstappen, struggling to get heat into his cold hard tyres, immediately found himself under pressure. He made an error coming out of the final corner as the green flags waved, compromising his run onto the main straight. This slight hesitation opened the door for those behind him on their warmer, softer tyres. Charles Leclerc, in the Ferrari, was the first to pounce. He sensed his opportunity and dived down the inside of Verstappen with some minor contact between the two cars. Verstappen, clearly agitated, complained over the radio that Leclerc had rammed him. The drama didn't end there. George Russell, in his Mercedes, was next to challenge the struggling Red Bull. As they approached turn 1, Russell attempted a pass. Verstappen defended robustly and contact was made, forcing the Dutchman wide off the track. He managed to retain his position, but the stewards noted the incident. Red Bull, fearing a penalty for gaining an advantage by leaving the track, quickly instructed Verstappen to give the position back to Russell. Verstappen's response over the radio was furious, a clear sign of his mounting frustration with how his race was unraveling. What happened next, approaching turn 5 with just 2 laps remaining, was deeply controversial. Verstappen appeared to be slowing to let Russell by, as instructed by his team. However, as Russell drew alongside, Verstappen suddenly accelerated back towards the Mercedes, resulting in a significant collision. The stewards took a very dim view of this incident. Their verdict was unequivocal. Car 1, Verstappen, suddenly accelerated and collided with car 63, Russell. The collision was undoubtedly caused by the actions of car 1. It was a moment of madness, a red mist descending upon the reigning champion. The consequences were severe. Verstappen was handed a 10-second time penalty for causing the collision. This penalty dropped him from a potential 5th-place finish all the way down to 10th. Furthermore, he received 3 penalty points on his super license, bringing his 12-month total to a precarious 11. Just one more point in the coming races would trigger an automatic one-race ban. It was a disastrous end to a difficult afternoon for Verstappen, his frustration seemingly getting the better of his usually calculated aggression. This incident would be debated for days to come. Section 8. Victory in sight. Piastri's Masterclass, McLaren's delight. While chaos erupted behind him, Oscar Piastri remained the epitome of calm and control at the head of the field. He managed the safety car restart perfectly, getting the jump on the pack and quickly re-establishing his authority. Those final 6 laps must have felt like an eternity for the young Australian, but he didn't put a wheel wrong. He expertly managed his soft tyres, maintained his pace, and kept his teammate Lando Norris, who was running a strong second, comfortably at bay. It was a drive of immense maturity and skill. As Piastri reeled off the final laps, the McLaren pit wall was a picture of nervous excitement. They had played their strategy perfectly, and their drivers were delivering on track. The double-stack pit stop under the safety car had been a masterstroke, ensuring both cars were on the optimum tyre for the final sprint. The MCL 60 looked imperious in Piastri's hands, responding to his every input. This was shaping up to be not just a victory, but a dominant 1-2 finish for the Woking-based team, a massive statement in the Constructors' Championship. Crossing the finish line, Piastri punched the air in jubilation. He finished 2.4 seconds ahead of Lando Norris, securing his 5th victory in what was only the 9th race of the season. The celebrations began immediately in the McLaren garage. This was a hugely popular win, not just for Piastri, but for the entire team, who have worked tirelessly to return to the sharp end of the grid to achieve a 1-2 finish at a demanding circuit like Barcelona, especially after the introduction of new regulations aimed at slowing them, was a remarkable achievement. For Piastri, this victory was another significant milestone in his burgeoning career. He had taken pole position, controlled the race from the front, handled the pressure of a late safety car, and delivered a flawless performance. It was the kind of drive that champions are made of. He proved that he could not only match the best in the business, but beat them convincingly. The Spanish Grand Prix of 2025 will be remembered as the day Oscar Piastri truly announced himself as a dominant force in Formula One. His composure under fire was simply outstanding. Section 9, Podium Reflections and Pointed Remarks, the Aftermath. The podium celebration was a joyous affair for McLaren, with Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris basking in the glory of their 1-2 finish. Charles Leclerc joined them, claiming a well-deserved 3rd place for Ferrari after a strong and consistent drive. Piastri, speaking post-race, was understandably elated. "I'm really happy to have won today," he said. "The pace was really good. We could turn it on when we needed to." His words, though understated, reflected the quiet confidence and supreme ability he had displayed all weekend. He had truly mastered the Catalonian circuit. The fallout from the Verstappen-Russell collision, however, dominated much of the post-race discussion. George Russell was visibly angry, calling Verstappen's move deliberate and totally unnecessary. He felt the Red Bull driver had acted dangerously. Verstappen, when questioned about the incident and whether his actions were intentional, gave a curt reply. "Does it matter?" Later, in response to Russell's comments, he sarcastically remarked, "Next time I will bring a tissue." These comments did little to diffuse the situation and only added fuel to the fire of controversy surrounding his conduct. Former world champion Nico Rosberg, commentating on the race, suggested that Verstappen was perhaps lucky not to have been disqualified for his actions. The steward's 10-second penalty and 3 penalty points were significant, but some felt a harsher punishment might have been warranted given the nature of the incident. Verstappen's aggressive defense had clearly crossed a line in the eyes of many, including the officials. The incident highlighted the immense pressure drivers are under, but also the responsibility they have to race safely and fairly even when frustrated. This thrilling Spanish Grand Prix had significant championship implications. Piastri's victory extended his lead at the top of the drivers' standings to 10 points, a healthy margin at this stage of the season. McLaren also solidified their lead in the Constructors' Championship. As for the new technical regulations concerning flexible front wings, designed to slow McLaren, they seem to have had minimal impact. If anything, McLaren's dominant performance in Spain proved they remain the team to beat, regardless of such tweaks. The battle for the championship, however, is far from over, with many twists and turns undoubtedly still to come.